Hey folks, it's Louise here. Just thought I'd play catch up with you this evening, and we're just going to talk about thyroid and fatigue. So what could be stealing your energy? Now, we do know that with thyroid disease, that having a really high TSH level is almost guaranteed to bring fatigue, but there are other causes. So the one I'm actually going to cover tonight is anemia, and sometimes it is looked at and sometimes it's not, and sometimes the doctors tend to overlook it and forget to actually focus on these. So anemia is when we do not have enough iron in our blood. So hemoglobin is made up of iron, and this iron has 4 oxygen transporters, so it carries oxygen around our body, and it helps us think, it helps us move, and it gets oxygen to the cells. So when we have anemia, we drop off iron and we drop off those oxygen molecules, so there just isn't enough. So most of the time we look at anemia and we just think of iron, but it's not always that. So we can look at iron deficiency being anemia. We can look at B12 deficiency, which is also anemia, and the autoimmune component of B12 deficiency is called pernicious anemia. And then we have anemia related to folate, which is our B9. So in people with Hashimoto's and Graves' disease, we really need to look quite closely at what your iron levels are, your B12 levels, and your folate levels are. So usually, if you're really lucky and you ask your doctor nicely and you're saying, I am so tired that I can barely move, I can't even lift my arms to wash my hair, my heart's pounding, I'm always short of breath, getting up and down stairs is difficult, or even walking to the letterbox can be really hard work sometimes. And I find with some of my young kids that have got iron deficiency and autoimmune disease, even going to school is a real struggle. So like we have a whole group of things that we usually test, that I can do the testing as well, or you can go to your doctor. The reason I send you off to your doctor is because you can claim it through Medicare. So B12, so normally our B12 levels range between about 2 to 900 picograms per mil. Okay, so we're talking tiny amounts, but when we have levels that fall under 350, it is known to be associated with neurological symptoms. So we find a lot in Hashimoto's and Graves that we have a lot of mental conditions, and that's not sounding bad. I'm talking about anxiety, depression, OCD, things that over worrying, so we worry all the time, and we have all these things, and they get on top of us. So that's why I look at iron, B12 and ferritin, folate a lot, because when your levels are really low, it can exacerbate anxiety, depression, and OCD, GAG, which is generalized anxiety disorder, and a whole lot of others. Okay, so sometimes you need a supplement of B12, but you seriously need your levels tested before supplementation, because you need to know what your levels are before you take it. Okay, so as I said, B12 deficiency, the autoimmune component of that is pernicious anemia. Now, we can have malabsorption issues in relation to iron deficiency anemia as well. Now, there's a couple that I was surprised at, which I find quite fascinating actually. So I know that zinc competes with iron, so if you are taking a supplement because you have deficiency, try and take your zinc supplements away from each other a minimum of 4 hours, because otherwise your zinc will jump on board and you won't absorb your iron. Calcium's the same, so if you're taking calcium supplements because you have osteoarthritis or you're postmenopausal, take your iron at least that 4 hours away from your calcium supplement. So also things like black tea can prevent your absorption of your iron, coffee, red wine, rhubarb, spinach. Spinach was my surprise. Chocolate, wheat bran. so these things can restrict your absorption because they're high in oxalates. So what happens is if we usually say to activate your spinach, you need to cook it to activate the iron component in it. Now, even though spinach is really, really high in iron, it can actually stop you absorbing iron as well. So you can get really caught in a catch-22 with this one because the oxalate levels are just that little bit higher, so you don't tend to absorb as much as you would hope to. Also, you require vitamin A, vitamin B, and vitamin C for absorption, and zinc. This is why it's really hard. So zinc has to be taken away, but you do need them to help you absorb your iron. You also need good stomach acid. So in Hashimoto's and Graves' disease, we tend to find that there is a real suppression of stomach acid. So we don't tend to absorb nutrients very easily. So getting back to it, so then let's have a look at, some people just can't absorb B12 anyway because they have a gene SNP. Now a gene SNP is a tiny little piece of your genetic code, and it can be coded that it's turned around the opposite way, so you really struggle. We usually have with folate, it's MFHTFR, so methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase gene, and when that one's not playing nice, you can have a lot of difficulty in absorbing your folates and your B12s as well. So now we're looking at ferritin. Ferritin is your bone store of iron. So sometimes when we get colds and flus, we get a higher storage of ferritin because bacteria, viruses, and bugs like to eat your iron, so we tend to store it a lot more. So it's a really good idea if you're getting your iron levels checked that you're not sick at the time, because it'll give you a reading that's not quite right. So we need optimal ferritin for good thyroid function. Okay, so this is really quite important. So ferritin is one of the most common deficiencies in people with Hashimoto's, and these deficiencies bring about fatigue. Ferritin deficiency can also contribute to that shortness of breath, hair loss, insomnia, and really strange food cravings as well, and mood swings, as I said before. So ferritin, look, I tend to find with menstruating women, growth spurts, there can be lower ferritin because there's more blood loss, but sometimes we find that there can have gastric ulcers, you can have stuff that's going on in your digestive system that you could cause bleed. So we really want to get to the bottom of why you're not absorbing your iron. So it can involve a few testing, and I can do a lot of those with a lot of functional medicine testing. I can do the DNA testing now with bioceuticals, which is really, really cool. All right, so folate's B9, so we actually need this nutrient because it helps with viruses within the body, the formation of our DNA, and our cellular growth. So when we get really low, sorry, I'm a little scratchy today. When folate gets really low, it's not a good thing. So we're looking at boosting it. But as I said before, if we have that gene mutation or that gene SNP on MHTFR, we can have a lot of difficulty with absorbing that nutrient. So, let's just move some stuff. We need to find what the right ones are for you. So this is why coming into clinic rather than just buying something over the shelf is that we make sure that you're getting the right nutrients for the right things. And also over-the-counter things, they're not always got the amount in the product that they say, and they're filled with excipients. So I deal a lot with people with allergies, so I like to know exactly what's in my products as well. So So that's it. So those things can actually really make you tired and fatigued. And if your doctor's not checking them, I would seriously ask him to check for your iron studies, your B12 specifically, and folate, because we all need that little bit of oomph in our days, and it can be as simple as changing and taking a supplement. Okay, guys, I will catch up with you later, and you have a fantastic night. I have my thyroid talk on Thursday night at the Whole Food Place. So that's demystifying it. So it's going through how to talk to a doctor, what type of testing that they offer, what things can interfere with your medications, even from the metaphysical point of view of what could be a root cause of your thyroid dysfunction. Okay, folks, if you're interested, down on the events page, you can book via there. All right, guys, take care. Look after yourself. Thanks for watching, Annie. It's good to see you. All right, bye.